Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how best to enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm a teacher, tarot oracle card reader, and I am a singer and guitarist in the rock band Red Treasure, and I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina. I'm a transformational life coach, and I help people shift away from negative thinking. And I'm in San Diego, California.
Thank you so much for listening and watching. At this time, we're posting a brand new episode for you every Monday morning. We really appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast, liking us, following us, subscribing to us, leaving us a comment, writing us a review. All of that helps other people find us, and we love you for it. Each week, we start our discussion from a different jumping off point. And this week, which I'm not sure because we do record these episodes ahead of time, I feel like the date this goes live will be close to Halloween. It'll either be like the Monday before or the Monday after in the United States.
I think it's the 24th.
Yeah, so anyway, so happy Halloween to those of you who observe it. And we just watched something we would like to share with you, but
Halloween.
Yeah, so is Monday the 24th is when this is going?
No, the 31st is a Monday.
So this is actually on Halloween.
I think so.
This is the Halloween episode.
Because we have one there. Oh, no, you're right. It will be the 24th.
Oh, okay.
My apologies.
All right. Well, next week will be the Halloween episode. But anyway, I just showed Stephanie. Had you ever seen that sketch before?
Never.
I just showed Stephanie on YouTube a sketch from Saturday Night Live, which was from a few years ago with Tom Hanks and Kate McKinnon and other brilliant people. And it was called the David Pumpkins sketch, and it's about this David S. Pumpkins. And we can't show it or play it for you here for copyright reasons and all that, but just you can Google it, YouTube it, just SNL or Saturday Night Live David Pumpkins. You'll be able to see it. But basically what it does is it tells the story of this couple that goes to a Halloween ride at like an amusement park or something, and it's called 100 Floors of Frights. And they have all this expectation it's going to be like the best, scariest Halloween ride ever. And you get into this elevator, and the idea is that the elevator operator like opens the door at different floors, and there's different scary things that jump out at you on each like floor. And the first two are very scary. I'm going to spoiler alert. If you don't want it spoiled, pause and then go watch the video. But the first two floors are scary to their satisfaction. They're like, yes, this is a great ride. And then they stop on one floor. There's just this guy in a pumpkin suit, like dressed in like he's got like a suit on, like a three-piece suit, but it's got pumpkins on it. And he just says that he's David Pumpkins, and he has two people dressed up as skeletons next to him on either side of him, and they just dance to this weird music, and that's the end of it. And the couple is very confused as to why this completely non-scary thing is on the ride, which is supposed to scare you. And so then in the very end, what happens is that they keep seeing David Pumpkins at different floors.
Well, and the husband's
focusing, upset, yeah,
and he keeps focusing on this David S. Pumpkin, and he's not even enjoying the ride anymore. That's right. All he can think about.
Right.
And so he keeps seeing David Pumpkins.
David Pumpkins. So this is a fictional sketch, obviously. It was written, ahead of time, but I just thought you pointed out. I didn't catch that actually. You pointed out that it illustrates very well how when we focus on something negative, like we attract more of it. Like he gets upset,
right?
Yeah.
Anything we focus on, it gains momentum.
Right.
In this particular situation, he's focusing on something he doesn't want.
Right.
That doesn't feel good to him, and he's upset about it, and so he keeps getting more of that, and he keeps getting more upset,
and they see David Pumpkins again and again.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because like they see David Pumpkins the first time. Then the next floor is another really scary one, but they're still so fixated on the unfunny floor before that was David Pumpkins.
Can you relate to that? I can't relate to that. I
100%.
never do that. Right?
Yeah. No,
Oh
that's, I
man.
mean, yeah. And then, so to skip to the end, though, so they see David Pumpkins once. They see an actual scary floor, but they don't care because
They just
they're still
bypass
bothered.
that. They don't even take it in.
Then they see David Pumpkins again, and they're
Yeah.
upset even more. And then they see a floor that starts out looking like it's not David Pumpkins, but then surprise, it is a David Pumpkins floor, and they're really upset at that point. They're just like they can't believe that there's all these floors with non-scary David Pumpkins on
And
it.
it really taps into what we talked about in our last episode about the 17 seconds. Whenever we
Yeah,
focus our attention on anything
yeah,
for longer than 17 seconds, the law of attraction responds and gives us
yeah,
another. And so this is a perfect illustration of that and
yeah,
how it builds momentum and escalates.
yeah. And then finally, what happens is they get to another floor. The final floor they can see is just the skeleton guys who just dance this weird dance to music, and it's not scary. And they're completely upset. What they don't realize is that David Pumpkins has somehow gotten directly behind them in the elevator that they're in. And he, at the very end, he says his catchphrase, which is "Any questions?" But he says it right behind them, and he scares the living crap out of both of them in a way that they couldn't have gotten scared by just looking at scary, monsters on the floors. And so the reason I love that sketch from a law of attraction standpoint is that I think they came in with the right overall vibration, like they wanted to be truly scared, and the law of attraction did give it to them. It's just that they developed resistance along the way. They delayed it, and then they got it in a way that they could not have thought of previously. And I think I've had that experience so often in my life where I've wanted something
Mm.
and I've put it in my vortex, as Abraham Hicks says. And as you always say, what I can't see as a physical human is that once I put it in my vortex, as you say, it's done. Meaning it's already going to come into my life at some point. But one of the factors is how much resistance do I have around it manifesting into my life. And so I will have this really strong desire for it, but then I'll have resistance for a while. And then finally, my resistance is low enough that, I get the thing I want. But so often, it comes in this really cool way that that there's no way I could have come up with the way that would have happened. And it's way cooler than what I would have thought myself.
Yeah. Or even, and maybe it's not even way cooler, but it happens anyways. And it
Yeah,
happens in a way that I could not have imagined.
yeah,
I was just, when you started talking, I was like, oh, my mind just went and
saw
exploded
that.
because it
Scary.
it reminded me of several years ago when my mom was really needing to shift places where she was living. She's living in a private home with a bunch of other people and a caregiving situation. And my sister and I were just didn't know how my mom could afford a next level of care that she needed. And circumstances came about and she went to the hospital, and then we still didn't know, and if she could afford to go into, and all of this stuff was just like, how is this going to happen? Scared. And long story short, it all worked out. She got into a facility she could afford, and like everything worked out. And so it's I'm gonna cry. My mom put in her vortex, and so did my sister and I. My mom being taken care of, being able to afford it, like all of it being really well. And we forgot all of that because of the physical, like reality of what was physically happening. And then lo and behold, it came about in this way neither one of us could have imagined. But when I look at that example that actually lived by participating in it, because I needed to be an advocate for my mom, I look back on that every time and I'm blown away by how things met. I was like, long story short, you know how we say the story. Like, yeah, once it's done, then we can look back and go, oh, wow. But when we're in it, sometimes it's really hard for us to see. And, just trusting and having faith and believing in the law of attraction and the vortex and what we've created and that it's been given and that it exists. And I love what you said. It's already going to come into my life at some point. Powerful. Words to live by.
Yeah, I remember really clearly because I had a dream of that I felt very strongly about when I was younger. Um, when my parents took me to see what at the time in 1976 we called Star Wars, which now people call Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. Um, and when they took me there, I loved the movie so much. I was like, just knew that I needed to live in Los Angeles when I grew up. And but when I finally became an adult, like I went to college and graduated and all that, like I did not go to Los Angeles. And I remember several times during that period of my life when I was an adult, not living in Los Angeles yet, thinking like, oh, it's too late now. I'm too old. I'll never make it. And just feeling sad about that. And just like, oh man, like I really thought, part of me thought I was going to go there. I guess I'm not going to go there. Jeez Louise. And, but here I am, and I've been here now for 8 years, which is crazy to me.
Wow.
And I didn't get here till I was 44 years old, something like that. But I remember really clearly meeting a guy when I first moved to town. I was at some sort of social function, and he asked me, my story, and I had sort of spilled the beans. And I was like, yeah, I've dreamed of moving here since I was a little kid, and I just I allowed myself to not do that thing I wanted to do, which is kind of makes me sad sometimes. And he was like, well, you're here now, and that's all that matters. And it really was like
I love that.
like, there was no deadline for that, you know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to live here, and now I do. So it's like, so I think that there's something in the, yeah.
Wow, what a cool dude.
Yeah. But I remember one of my first, it might have been the first time I ever saw Abraham Hicks, was in the DVD extras of the You Can Heal Your Life movie that Louise Hay and Hay House put together. And
they're in that? I didn't know that.
oh yeah. There's a whole story about that. That's them trying to make up for the debacle that happened with them.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Well, because they were
I have that
filmed,
original copy of The Secret with them in it.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, because like Rhonda Byrne edited them out eventually. But
they agreed. They came to a parting. It was a mutual parting. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, they're in the You Can Heal Your Life movie, and then in the DVD extras, there's they show the extended interviews without all the editing, and Jerry, Esther's wife, said something that was like, I think he's like, I just have this feeling of like when you're a little kid and you're 4 years old and you have dreams, like you get all of that by the time you die. It just probably doesn't come the way you think. A lot of it doesn't come in the exact form or details that you thought maybe, but like you get the general gist of everything you wanted when you were 4 years old.
The essence of.
Like when I heard him say that, I was like, my first reaction was just like, that guy's nuts. Like that's so not true.
Really? Oh, yeah. How funny. Okay.
Well, I mean, if you don't,
and back then, and you weren't into it as much as you are now, so of course, yeah, sure. I wonder what I would.
And I hadn't met you, and I hadn't had your coaching.
I probably would have thought, yeah, right, maybe you, but not me.
Yeah,
kind of a thinking. Yeah.
Well, I think if you talk to if you just pulled an average person off the street today, at least in the United States, and said, "Do you believe that everybody gets everything they wanted when they were 4 years old?" I think most people would be like, "Oh, you're crazy." Yeah. And it's like, no.
I can't wait to see it now. Now I'm like excited. Because I've been listening to some of their older stuff. I have the Vortex book on CD, and so I was listening to it in my iTunes this morning, and he's talking like he's reading the first part of the book, and he's giving his examples of some false premises that he had growing up and how he had to shift those in order to change them into him experiencing what he wanted. And it was just so good to hear his voice. And I've been listening to him for a while now, so I just remember when he was alive, and
Yeah.
how he was a big proponent of bringing this work to us, because
Yeah.
Esther didn't want anyone to know that she was channeling energies. Like, she would have been mortified, and she even made him promise to never share it with anyone. And then he eventually did with some business friends that they had, and she was like, "What?" And then it just slowly grew from there.
When did you first discover Jerry and Esther Hicks and Abraham
It
Channel
was
through
when The
Esther
Secret
Hicks?
came out.
Oh, okay.
I had a friend who became a client, and at that point, I think we were trading services, and
This is before you were a life coach, correct?
I was no, I was life coaching. I was kind of doing it here and there a
Oh,
little
okay.
bit. I had my personal assistant business, but I discovered coaching, I think, in 2003, and the DVD came out in 2006. So I was dabbling in it. Um, and so it was The Secret. I remember buying it and had a viewing at my home, and my friend was there, and so she immediately went out and bought all of their audiobooks. And so she loaned me some of their work, and I started listening to it, and then just from that point I just really resonated with their
Mhm.
material.
What was it about it initially that resonated with you?
I honestly don't remember. I think it was The Secret that was really like, wow.
Hmm.
And then I think because she had the material, I just started listening to it. I don't really know specifically. I can just imagine what it must have been. I think there was this like inner connection, like there was just
Hmm.
something that I kept going back to it. And I would listen to it on my iPod when I'd be working for a customer, like walking their dogs or something. And I've talked about this before, where I'll listen, I'll be like, yeah, I'd try it for a couple of days. Oh, this doesn't work. And then I'd let it go. And then I kept going back to it because it just felt right. Like there was things that they were saying that it was like, oh yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, what I want is possible. Cause no one ever really said that to me.
Mm.
Um, Maybe more the opposite. I remember when I wanted to get into photography, and my uncle was a photographer, and so I had asked him about it. And he goes, "Oh, it's super expensive." It was just really like poo-pooed it, and I just kind of went wah wah wah. So it was really the first time that I remember connecting with something. Well, and I had listened to Wayne Dyer before that, even years before. I'm not sure. What was it for you?
Yeah, I was trying
Do
to
you
think
remember?
back. I mean, because when I first watched the film The Secret, that I watched the more widely distributed version that
Yeah,
after
the
they'd been
video
edited out
edit.
of it.
Yeah.
So the first time I ever saw or heard them was when I
Oh, okay. So you didn't see
bought
them in
the
The Secret. Okay.
yeah. But I mean, I ended up watching the You Can Heal Your Life movie pretty soon after like I was
Okay.
not
So
I
they
didn't see
came.
The Secret right when it came out. I
Okay.
people had to
Okay.
talk about it for a long time.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, I mean, at first, I mean, I definitely remember like when Esther Hicks, like, because in the You Can Heal Your Life movie, they have a sequence, and I don't remember if it's in the actual film or the extras, but where the two of them, Jerry and Esther, explain what Esther's going to do to start
Yeah.
channeling
Oh,
Abraham,
cool. Yeah.
and I definitely had two sides of my brain at that point. One side was my cynical, skeptical, like, oh, she's like a snake oil salesman, or
Oh, yeah.
she's just a weirdo who's like, oh, I channel like a universal wisdom. Like, okay, um, like what am I watching here? And then the other part of me was like, oh, this is really cool. you know, like
Yeah.
there's like a little kid in me that's just like, let's just watch this. This is cool.
Oh,
And yeah, like when she started talking after she was channeling Abraham, so she, at that time,
and I didn't have that experience. Like in The Secret and the original
uh huh,
taping and the DVD that
yeah,
came
she
out,
just
it
talks. Yeah,
it's just Esther is already
she's just
channeling
talking as
Abraham, and so
Abraham. Yeah.
Abraham is speaking. So
Yeah,
I didn't know. I just know that, yeah. So
yeah. That was
I
the yeah. I mean, it was a cool thing because yeah,
and
they
I love that your little boy was like, "Oh, this is cool. Let's watch that." Because that, I feel like our inner child, like they know, like when there's a
yeah,
predator, like whoa. When there's
yeah,
something that's shiny and that just brings them joy, they're letting us know. So it's like
Yeah.
listening to that voice. I love that.
And I think for me, it was just, I'm going to say something very similar to what you said. Is like, I don't remember a specific, sentence or phrase or anything that was like the big light bulb for me. It was just more that, like, when she was channeling Abraham, everything out of her mouth just seemed like true,
Yep.
like in a way that I I couldn't like necessarily like prove it scientifically, but just like it resonated with me. Like
Yep.
that's true,
Mm-hmm. Me too.
and but also it was like, oh, but I've learned a bunch of stuff that says the opposite.
Yeah.
And it was this process of like, oh my gosh, like all this stuff that I was raised with that's in the culture, all these kind of ideas about like there's a limitation, there's a lack of things, you have to compete for resources and you're going to lose out a lot and you're going to, all that kind of stuff. I was like, oh, that stuff is not true. That's just stuff that people said to me and I drank it in and, recorded it or whatever. But like what Abraham is saying right now, that the universe is abundant, anything's possible, you can do anything you want, like that just feels true for me. And I think I have a real, I would say like, I don't know exactly how to describe it, but I have like cults freak me out. Like cults freak me out. And I've watched lots of documentaries about cults and things. And like, part of me is like so worried about cults. Like I'm sometimes like looking on my shoulder, like somebody trying to get me into a cult.
Oh, shoot.
And now I live in Los Angeles, so I mean, it's like it's a real danger. Don't laugh too hard. You're in San Diego. But the thing is, because the thing with cults, the thing that I dislike about them is that I think why they are frightening to me sometimes when I think about them is that people join cults for the same reason that a lot of people do very innocent things, which is they're just looking for a sense of belonging and meaning,
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that all humans, I think, can relate to at some point. It's like we all want to belong to something bigger than ourselves, and we all want our lives to mean something.
Yeah.
And cults freak me out because, like, a toxic person takes advantage of that, like knows that people have that
So
and
I'm
does
gonna.
that.
So coming back to you, it just resonated with you. It just
Well, the
felt
reason I
right.
brought that up is because when I saw Esther, like, transform into Abraham,
Yeah.
my little, is this a cult radar? Like,
Okay, okay.
But the thing is like Abraham never pressures you to do anything.
Yeah. And they're even
Abraham,
like, we're not even trying to change your mind here.
no,
We're
and
just giving you
and
information like we promised we'd give you.
yeah, and I think the thing for me, because watching The Secret before that was hugely eye opening for me, and it was definitely the first step I needed. But the thing that really resonated with me about Abraham is that Abraham seemed to understand not just what the law of attraction is, how it works, how best to work with it, but also knows all about how my brain is going to try to work opposite.
The resistance,
And it's
like
just,
you were saying
yeah,
earlier, all the things that I grew up with, the
yeah.
false, the I don't want to call them lies because nobody was intentionally lying to me, but these things that just aren't true that we
Those are
just
lies. That's the definition of lies.
I know, but they didn't know they were lying to
That doesn't
me
matter.
because okay, they weren't intentionally lying to me. They thought it was true. That's all that it was.
If I accidentally punch you in the face, it's still going to hurt. I'm just saying.
So, and I love the way you described it because you're like, oh, but there's this scarcity, and I'm like, I wasn't even conscious of that.
Mm-hmm.
I just had these beliefs that were so limiting.
Yeah.
And here they were saying you can be, do, or have anything.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, that's what I want, and so there were so many beliefs that I had that were so ingrained that when I listened to them and then I tried to do some of the things that I do, and because I didn't get instant results because I had all of these like limiting beliefs that were resisting and stopping me from attracting anything, I just like gave up my hands and said, this doesn't work. But I kept coming back to it because it was the only thing that gave me hope.
Yeah.
That it was possible to be more abundant, to feel
Yeah.
better, to manifest what I wanted. And there wasn't anything else in my life at the time that gave me a possibility of that occurring for me.
Well, the other thing for me too is that it was not all new information. Like a lot of what Abraham was talking about, when she talked about it, I was like, oh, I've done that with certain things.
Oh,
Like I've
examples?
wanted
Yeah.
certain things and they've just shown up with me doing very little
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then there's these other things that I seem to want with the equal or greater desire, and yet they don't come.
Yeah.
And Abraham is explaining to me why they're not coming,
Yeah.
and it makes total freaking sense. Like it just
Right.
makes total sense.
Well, like what
Um,
I was talking about maybe in friend time was like, I am the only holdout. I am
yeah,
the only one. Everything else has been gathered and just waiting for me. And I'm the only holdout because I'm fearful. I don't believe it. I have doubt. I work, whatever. Or I'm saying, yeah, but it's not here yet. Well, how can
yeah,
it come if I keep saying, yeah, but it's not here yet? Yeah, but it hasn't happened.
yeah,
So law of attraction is responding to my yeah, but it's not here yet. Not to like, it's coming. I know it's here. It's inevitable. Like what you
yeah,
said, it exists. It's already going to come into my life at some point. I'm
yeah.
just gonna go and
And I
take
think
better care of
the one
myself.
that really got me, like the one that was like, oh, that's so true, and I so relate to it, and like that's just so important for that I now know this. Thank you, Abraham, for telling me. Is the whole thing about, because I think that we've talked about this before, like the 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 wonderfulness of the film The Secret, but then also the potential dangers with it. And the potential dangers with it for me, if I had just watched The Secret, are, locking myself in a room. Not that this is really what The Secret teaches you, but it's what you can kind of accidentally take from it. Is I could lock myself in a room and just be like, all right, I want a new car. New car. I'm just gonna think about a new car all day, and not realizing that if I have resistance going on, that just visualizing the new car isn't going to bring it. It's because I'm putting the desire out, but I'm also putting out, don't
We're
give it
just
to me yet.
putting the
Don't give it to me
brakes.
yet. I don't
Yeah.
deserve it. I don't,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
And the fact that Abraham was able to simply and quickly explain that phenomenon to me, like, this is why you can visualize something with the best of intentions. You can do everything that certain things like The Secret tell you, and then it still doesn't work. This is why it doesn't work.
Yeah.
That was revolutionary to me, because I
Yeah.
think that if you're just a naturally like super trusting person, and you can watch The Secret and just be like, oh, cool, I'll just do that,
Yeah.
then you can watch The Secret and you can manifest a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
For me, my results after watching The Secret were very haphazard, and I didn't understand why. I didn't understand why. Why am I getting some of the things but not others?
Right.
Am I doing it wrong? Whatever. And Abraham being able to explain the concept of resistance and explain contrast experiences and what those are and how those aren't bad. Those are just things that can add to the mix, really, of good stuff coming as well. I think that was really huge for me. And I felt like, I guess like anything, like if you go talk to anybody and you feel like they get you,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm going to keep listening to you. You get me.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that was the thing. It's like, not only did Abraham understand and have such a great way of explaining how the law of attraction worked and how you can best use the art of allowing to work with it, it's just that Abraham also understands, now you're a human and you might have this potential hurdle in trying to do this, and here's how that works, and here's how you get around that hurdle. That was super important for me.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I hope most of our listeners, like our teachers come in very very different ways, and maybe we are their teachers, and maybe they listen to Abraham and they just don't feel that same resonance, or maybe they do. But I think that's why there's so many teachers, is because not everyone will get the same thing from one teacher, and so I know like many of my clients would not have listened to Abraham. And so because I practice it so much and it's what I teach is the art of allowing, they were able to grasp this information from me versus, Abraham. But yeah.
Cool. Well, we are so happy that you joined us today for this conversation. We hope you got something great out of it. Please remember, we are posting a brand new episode for you every Monday morning at this point. And we truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast. Liking us, following us, subscribing to us, leaving us a comment, writing us a review. All of that helps other people find the show. Also, all of our social media links and our email address are in the description of the YouTube video version of this, down in the description below. A guy I follow on YouTube calls it the doodly doo. He's like, I put the links for you down in the doodly doo. But we wish you a happy and abundant week, and we look forward to you joining us again on the next episode of Co-Creation Station. And happy Halloween, everybody.